So, you want to ruin your career? Hire these people. So let's talk about just the different people that can absolutely tarnish your reputation and also really stunt your growth in the industry. The first set of folks would be considered like one of your most important partnerships, which would be lenders. So lenders are extremely important to interview. A lot of agents kind of scare away from having a conversation with lenders because they always kind of compare the lenders to staying in their lane and then an agent staying in their own lane as well. And so I don't encourage that at all. I think that it's a recipe for disaster. You absolutely want to begin to interview your lenders. Some of the key points that you want to absolutely go over with your lender is, one, how long have you been in the industry? How many transactions do you process on a monthly basis? Do you have a team? If a lender begins to become a bit defensive while you're talking to them and you're asking them these questions, how long does it take to actually process a transaction? How long does it take to go from transaction to close? If they become offended with you questioning them or defensive with you questioning them, you may want to go the other way. You want a lender that's very open, that's very knowledgeable, that's willing to hold your hand as well as your client's hand, and that's extremely flexible in the process as well. So also you want to be cognizant of the current market conditions as well, because right now we have an influx of buyers, which means that the lenders are currently having just a ton of transactions to come across their desk. So what we're finding is that lenders may not actually pull the client's application as well as pulling their credit. To me, that's a problem. It's up almost against the line of discriminatory practices as well as just not doing the full duty to the client. So if your client has actually filled out an application and then the lender begins to interview them to see whether they should pull their credit or not, that's a problem. That's a red flag. And you really want to ensure that they are pulling credit. There's no possible way that a lender can properly provide advice to a buyer unless they are pulling credit. And so, a lot of times the buyer has no clue whatsoever of what their credit score is. The only thing that they typically go off of is your Credit Karma, your Credit Sesame. And those platforms are not something that you could actually depend on. Those are not dependable platforms to use because they're only pulling soft pulls on the client's credit. And so with the lender, we actually need them to do a hard pull on credit. The hard pull allows for us to know exactly what the lender is looking for and to speak to those concerns directly. So we want to ensure that they're going the full throttle. Lenders don't pull credit because there's a fee associated with every single pull whenever they're pulling a credit. And so their boss may tell them, well, don't pull the credit because we have too many pulls this month, or we're almost at a max for credit pulls. And so they'll go through this interviewing process with the client to see whether they should pull it or not. And believe it or not, even for myself, from looking at Credit Karma and having a hard pull run on credit from an actual lender, my score was much higher when the lender pulled it versus looking at Credit Karma or Credit Sesame. And so a lot of missed opportunity could be held there if they're just not going the full way to pull the credit report. So we want to ensure that they're doing that. We also want to make sure of the processing times. If they don't have systems in place or people in place to actually communicate effectively, you will miss your deadlines every single time, and your client's earnest money will be at jeopardy every single time. So you want to ensure that your lenders are a true partner, that they are not overly defensive. We run into those types quite often where they'll say, I'm in my lane, you just stay in your lane, and don't want to communicate or help. And you have to remind them that we're a team, this is a partnership, and we have to work together for the ultimate result for the client.